This is the story of how I bought BMW's weirdest M car and drove it 1,000 miles home. It's also the story about how I instantly lost my momentum on this new project and almost gave up before I started. For some reason, I've never owned a BMW. I don't know why, but when I drove a 3 Series race car on track last year, I fell in love with it. And then I drove a track-prepped E36 M3 and I knew a BMW would be my next purchase. And a couple of months ago, I felt like I had the finish line in sight with my C6 Z06 project, so I figured the time had come. Rather than buy what everybody buys, which is the boring typical M3, I decided to buy something weird. After literal days of internet shopping, I found the right car in Texas. The seller agreed to pick us up from the airport, so my wife and I flew to Austin, and a few hours later, I was the proud owner of a 1999 BMW M Coupe. So we began the epic 1,000-mile journey home, and 5 minutes later, we stopped for lunch. And right after that, Nicole needed a cup of coffee. I was doing the mental math and figured the earliest we'd get to our hotel was 10 p.m. Luckily, the 99 M Coupe is a proper sports car and I could just make up the time. It comes with a 3.2-liter inline-6 that makes a whopping 240 horsepower. So yeah, the car is slow by modern standards, but that's kind of the point. The reason I loved the BMWs I drove on track was that they weren't all about power. You know, the whole thing about how it's better to drive a slow car fast, yada yada yada. I've done a fair bit of endurance racing in Miatas, and the problem, beyond the fact that I don't really fit in them, is that they're just too slow. So the M Coupe is this sort of butch German version of a Miata with a roof and headroom and about 100 more horsepower. It's the perfect contrast to my Corvette, which weighs about the same but has more than double the horsepower, or had more than double the horsepower before I blew the motor. So anyway, the M Coupe, it's a weird car. It looks fantastic from certain angles and just kind of hideous from others. As with all German cars, lowering it and pushing the wheels out wider helps a lot with the looks, but there's no getting around the fact that this thing is based on the Z3 Roadster, which was possibly the lamest Bond car of all time. But honestly, the ugliness is part of the appeal. It's why they didn't sell very many of these things. Only a few thousand ever came to America. So it's very rare to see one, which automatically makes it cool. Well, the car managed to get us to our hotel in New Orleans, which had a bathtub 3 feet from the bed. Super convenient if you wake up at night and need to pee. The next day, I was feeling relief and a lot more confident that the car could get us the rest of the way home. I figured if it had covered 138,000 miles in its lifetime, it could probably go 1,000 more without braking. And unlike the LS7 in my Corvette, the S52 in the M Coupe is actually known to be a pretty reliable motor. The thing about a long highway trip is you can just sit back and engage the cruise control. Oh wait, the cruise control doesn't work. Well, never mind, you can just turn on the stereo and listen to... Oh, no, the radio doesn't work either. Well, no matter, you can roll down the windows and enjoy... Oh, the tint is peeling off. We'd better not roll down the windows. So you get the idea. The car isn't perfect, and that's exactly what I wanted. When I bought my Corvette with 50,000 miles, I was mad every time I discovered a problem. So I figured the antidote to that would be to intentionally buy a car that was 8 years older with triple the miles. But other than the radiator fan suddenly growing extremely loud on the last leg of the trip, the only drama came when I decided to try to make it home without stopping for gas, and Nicole forced me to give up 10 miles from home. And it turned out there were still 3/4 of a gallon left in the tank, which was plenty. So I got the car home and had every intention of kicking off the build, but then I blew the motor in my Corvette. And I have to tell you that even though I feel like I have a pretty positive attitude about how that's going to build character and be a good learning opportunity, my motivation to work on the M Coupe went down the toilet. And since that issue with the radiator fan could turn out to be serious, the car literally sat where I parked it in the garage for weeks. The worst thing in the world is a project with no momentum, because now every time you look at it, it makes you feel guilty, which makes you feel even more depressed about your Corvette motor, so you just mope around feeling sad and not getting anything done. But finally, I thought about the old saying that goes, "The best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time." And while I'm morally opposed to eating elephants, that did make me think about what my first step would be. And it wasn't fixing the radiator or ordering a new suspension. It was washing the car. And for me, washing a car is a very therapeutic exercise, especially on a nice spring morning with the birds chirping and the kids safely inside on their iPads eating sugary cereal. So that's what I did. I washed the car, which by the way is a great way to start to absorb what the car really looks like from every angle and to assess the condition of the paint and how much curb rash is on the wheels. And wow, I love those wheels. Like, I just really love them. They look a lot like the wheels that came on the Ferrari F50, but with nice deep lips. And just like how the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes when he heard the Who's singing down in Whoville, my motivation to work on this car came back as I washed those wheels. And I'll be doggoned if a stupid blown motor in my stupid Corvette is going to stop me from enjoying this ugly, beautiful German hardtop Miata. So let's get this project going. Okay, the car is clean, which makes me feel a lot better. I've only driven it about 20 miles since I got it home from the road trip, and the reason for that is that I was hearing a really loud fan noise on the last leg of the trip. Probably means that the radiator fan clutch has failed, and that's a pretty serious issue that I need to take care of. The service manual says you can check the fan clutch by simply spinning the radiator fan by hand to see if it spins freely. This one is not spinning freely, so the clutch is still doing something, but I noticed that there is a lot of play, and that could indicate that the water pump bearings are failing, and so I'm gonna go ahead and order a kit to replace the water pump just in case. There's the nut to remove the fan. It's a little tricky to get at it. Okay. All right, here's the original fan and clutch. There is a bit of play in it. This is an OEM replacement part made by a different manufacturer, Mahle, but I did get a replacement fan that is the genuine BMW fan. The reason I decided to replace the fan is that with the clutch failing, it could have been allowing the fan to spin at engine speed, which would have explained the loud fan noise I was hearing. If that was the case, it could have damaged the structure of the fan and risked it coming apart, so better safe than sorry. I don't know if you can see, but it looks like there's some discoloration. Well, I'm not noticing the play anymore, so I think that means that we've got the issue solved. I'll need to drive it to make sure. Before I take it for a test drive though, there's a couple little cosmetic things I want to do. Car's got a couple of stickers on it that I feel like I don't need, such as the no smoking sticker. There is an aftermarket center console thing that's a little flimsy and chintzy and also kind of gets in the way. Then there's this Texas registration sticker that we don't need anymore. Oh, okay. It has BMW markings on it. It kind of gets in the way when you're driving, and it makes me wonder if it's the original part. And I really like having a change dispenser and this like teeny tiny cup holder thing. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Let's see if we can get this sticker off. Let's try a little Goo Gone. This stuff is just really brittle from being old. Another thing I want to do before a test drive is check the oil. Looks like we're a little bit low. Mobile 1, European 0W40. All right, I'm out for my first drive in this car in a long time, trying to enjoy myself. And it's pretty good, but there's a problem, and the problem is that the seat moves under braking. It's very unpleasant when it happens, and the reason is that there are bushings somewhere in the seat that deteriorate over time, and when they do, the seat is just kind of free to move back and forth almost an inch. So I need to fix that before I do anything else and before I drive this car again. Ooh, treasure. Oh, that's heavy. Ooh. Bolt doesn't really seem like it comes out of the hole. Well, I don't think there's any way for me to remove this with the seat slid all the way forward like I have it. In order to slide it back, I need to reattach the motor to the connector in the car, which means the seat has to go partway back in the car. I can think of things that are stupider than this, but not many. Ugh. All right, let's try this again. These little bits are what's left of the old bushings, completely deteriorated. So I need to remove this thing, but I need to remember where it was. We have 3 3/8. So this is the play that I was experiencing.
You got it, 3 3/8. Hey, there we go. You can see how much it slides forward and back. I think this one is ready to go back in the car. Yeah, Jesus. And if we've learned anything, it's that we should test this before we put everything back together. Okay, cool. I investigated, and this center console piece is a factory accessory. I don't think it's what came with it stock. I'm not 100% sure. And then they had attached this hinged lid armrest thing, which I don't think was a factory accessory. So I took that off, and now my elbow doesn't bump into that. So I think that's an improvement. The driver's seat is good to go, and I'm kind of inclined to go on a test drive just to see how it feels.
The fix for the seat bushings worked like a charm, and it's hard to overstate how much that was getting in the way of being able to enjoy the car. And the car is really fun to drive. Lots of grip, lots of feedback through the steering wheel, and the motor is just really smooth and loves to rev. So what are my goals with this project? First off, I want to refresh it mechanically. I want to be confident that I could take it on another 1,000-mile road trip and not worry that something might go wrong. And after 24 years and 140,000 miles, things are starting to wear out. I also want to get it looking as good as possible cosmetically. I really do like the way these cars look, and with a little help, I think we could see some big improvements. It's never going to be a show car, but I think there's a lot we can do. And finally, I want this car to be able to do some track days. Pushing a car to the limits on the racetrack is a great way to get to know how it drives, but it's also a torture test on the brakes, suspension, and motor. So to reliably handle a track day means that it really needs to be sorted and could probably use some upgrades. I'm going to resist the urge to transform it into a full-blown track car, at least for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that whatever elephant you're trying to eat, you find the motivation to take the next bite. Thanks for coming along for the ride. We'll see you next time.